Good morning everybody, it's Claire Jones here from Your One Life Healthy Weight Solutions. I'm live with you here this morning in the Accountability Club group. It is Monday the 18th of September and I'm here to give you your third task for the month. Before I do that though, I just thought it might be helpful just to have a little bit of a kind of like a refresh of where we've got to so far, and also just give you a little bit of an update on you know what's been going on for me over the last couple of weeks. So, you know, I did the Great North Run last weekend, and there was a little bit of a problem getting back, which meant that I couldn't come in live. I didn't have time to do a live video last week, so apologies for that. So I will give you a little bit of an update. Apologies if you can see smoke going across the screen. I've got a little incense stick burning and I thought it would be finished before now, and it's not. It's just doing its last little bit. So the house is not on fire, don't worry. Anyway, so September, the focus has really been around just thinking, you know, it's like a second new year. It's very smoky now. It's like a second new year, isn't it, really, with, you know, new terms, new beginnings, you know, kids going back to school, kids going off to university, perhaps coming back after the summer holidays and getting back into the routine. So it's a good opportunity to do a bit of a refresh and think, you know, what do I want to achieve by the end of the year? So that was your first task, was to think about what do you want to achieve by the end of the year. Now, I did say it didn't have to be weight specific. So, you know, it doesn't mean say you've got to, you know, I want to lose a stone by Christmas or something. It doesn't have to be that. But it's really thinking about what goals do you want to achieve personally that are kind of going to help you with your weight loss. And that might be focusing on something that's not weight related, that then clears the space in your mind to be able to focus on the weight loss. So it can be quite generic and or quite broad. It doesn't have to be too specific, but it's thinking of something that is gonna help you. And you know, it could be more than one thing, and that's okay too. But the key thing is to obviously not overdo it, and by trying to set yourself up to achieve too many things, because we tend to focus better if we focus on one thing at a time rather than try and spread ourselves too thinly. Obviously, when we've got the consistency sheet in the group, we are focusing on up to 7 different things, but we've got a bit of a hierarchy with those things. You know, it's like, what is the number one non-negotiable that, you know, if you do that, you get results, and everything else can kind of fall in behind. So it's about not diluting our efforts. So yeah, so your first task was to think of what it is that you want to do, and what you know, what that means for you, really. And obviously, part of that is also sort of being perhaps considering, well, why is that important to you? Then your second task was to obviously revisit that and then think about what are the top 3 things that you need to do to make sure that that goal happens. You know, because it's all very well us saying, well, I want to do this and I want to do that, but it's the action that we take that makes a difference. So if we're not focusing on the actions enough, we're not going to get the results that we want. So we've really got to make sure that we're being clear about what actions do we need to take in order to achieve that goal that we've set ourselves. And then the second part of last week's task was to then also be mindful of what's coming up for you that's likely to be a challenge, similar to what we do in the monthly accountability review forms. You know, I ask you, what do you want to achieve this month, and what's going to get in the way? So it's about just making that a bit bigger, really, and just thinking a bit further ahead. Because when we think about planning, when we think about having goals, whatever that might be in life, whether that be something in relation to your work or your business, whether it be in relation to a different kind of personal goal, you know, like for me, you know, running a marathon or a half marathon, I've got to do the training. It's no good me just turning up on the day and hoping for the best. I mean, I've done that before. It doesn't go too well. You know, and it's always such a much better experience when we've actually done the work. But the key thing is that you've got to break it into chunks, haven't you? You have the big goal, and then you have well, what do I need to achieve by when? And then the micro sort of goals of what do you need to do each week or each day that are going to lead to the bigger goals. So it's being able to zoom out and zoom in. And what I want you to do with this exercise is to be zooming out, so you can see between now and Christmas or the end of the year, what are the things that are coming up for you that you've got to be aware of, that you've got to be able to plan around, that you've got to be able to manage. because ultimately that's what this is all about. And I had a comment come in from a client this morning about sort of, you know, feeling a bit perhaps daunted by the week ahead and what they've got coming up for them, and you know, that they want to stay determined to follow their plan, but they know it's going to be hard because of what's coming up. And my response to that was really just don't look at the hill, don't look at the top of the hill or the mountain, because when we do that, it's like, oh, that's too much, I can't do it. Whereas if you simply focus on what is the next step you need to take, and is that step in line with going to take you to, you know, is it going to take you to the top of the hill? If it is, then great. Just focus on that. Don't look up. You know, it's the same strategy when I'm running a race or running, you know, yesterday I ran up a massive hill. Oh, it was nearly, I think, 500 feet. And it was uphill pretty much all of the first half of my run, although I think from mile 3 to 5, it was continuously uphill. And looking at the gradient on the graph, I did share it on my Facebook and my stories, so do take a look if you haven't seen it yet. But the important thing is I don't look up at the top. If I look up at the top, I'm like, oh my God, I can't do it. It's too big. It's going to be, and then you all that negative talk starts coming. So it's like, no, just keep looking. You know, just maybe here. You know, sort of like I don't know, I'm not very good with angles, but you know, just sort of, if you imagine just where your feet are going and the little bit, slightly a little bit ahead, yeah, and no more than that. Every now and then it's quite good to look up and turn around and go, wow, how far I've gone. I've come all that way, you know, and maybe a little glance at the top just to keep that awareness of where you're focused and you're going in the right direction, but get your attention back on what do you need to do right now? What do you need to do right now, the rest of the day? And, you know, if you know that you've got things coming up with the rest of the week that you need to be aware of, and look at those as well. But don't get overwhelmed by the size of the goal, because that's where we tend to trip ourselves up. But if you can focus on what do you need to do right now, what can you do right now or in the next hour that is going to help you with your goal, so that you don't end up in this kind of position of continually self-sabotaging, you know, because it's so easy to do that and start that negative self-talk that just goes, oh, I can't do it, what's the point, what difference is that going to make? It makes a massive difference. If you think about going back to that mountain and how many steps you would need to take in the same direction to get you to the top of that mountain, it's going to be thousands and thousands, isn't it? But they're repeated. Yeah, and it's the same with this, is you keep doing the same thing over and over again. Anytime you go off track, you just need to remind yourself where you need to go and then move to get back on track. It is as simple as that. There is no secret to this. There is no easy answer. There is no magic wand. It is simply down to reminding ourselves what it is that we want and being clear about the practicalities of actually what we need to do to get there. And obviously we get all those mindset gremlins coming in to kind of challenge us. But this is where having accountability is so important. This is where coming into the group and sharing what you're doing is going to really help. Because if you've publicly made that commitment, and I say publicly, I mean, obviously it's a private group. But if you've privately, in our group, made that commitment of what you're going to do, you're much more likely to achieve it. That is proven. There's scientific studies that show that when people are more public about what they say they're going to do, they're more likely to do it. If that feels too much and you just want to do it to me in the portal, that's fine too. But it's about keeping those commitments going. You're saying, this is what I'm going to do. Anyway, back to the task. So your first task was what do you want to achieve by Christmas? Whether that's a physical number on the scale, or whether that is just how you want to feel, whether there's an outfit you want to get into, whether it's, I don't know, clearing a load of clutter that's got in the way, that's stopping you from focusing on the things that you need to do. It doesn't matter. It's whatever is meaningful to you. Then what are the 3 things that you need to do to make it happen? So it's the actions you need to take. And then what are the things that are likely to be getting in the way? So your third task for this month is to review those things that are likely to be getting in the way and come up with a plan of how are you going to manage those things so that you can stay on track. And make sure that when you are thinking about what you need to do, that you're including things that help you with your mindset. Because if it's all the practical stuff and you're not actually spending any time thinking about why this is important to you and how you're going to make sure you do it, then you won't do it, okay? Or you'll be less likely to do it. the mindset stuff is the glue that holds everything else together. If you don't do that, then you don't have a solid ground to work on. So make sure that you are doing that every single day, okay? And as many times as that during the day as you need to remind you of what is important, because it's about kind of like, it looks like a process of, you know, that repetition. That's how we learn anything. It's repetition over and over again. Keep practicing. Now, some of you know that I'm trying to learn how to ride a motorbike at the moment, and I am seriously right in that space at the moment of understanding that this is going to take me some time to get my head around, you know, physically. You know, I'm making new neural pathways in my brain, because my brain is having to go, what do I do? And the difference between my first lesson and my second lesson was huge, because the first lesson I couldn't even ride in a straight line. You know, I was all over the place, and I'm trying to keep the throttle on like an even state, and it's just going vroom, 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 like this, and I know what I'm doing. And I've got the trainer trying to help me, but I'm just, you know, trying to think of so many different things, trying to get all the different parts of my brain to kind of coordinate with each other. It was a nightmare. Second lesson, because my brain had assimilated and processed the stuff that I'd done in the first lesson, by the time I turned up for the second lesson, and I did a little bit of practice on my push bike in between, I turned up and I could drive in a straight line straight away, which was amazing, because I went back. Yeah, I didn't give up. I didn't go, right, that's it. Well, that was a disaster, so I won't bother trying again. Although, to be honest, there was a part of me that was thinking that, but I wouldn't let it win. And I think it helped that I'd already bought my motorbike, which means that, you know, I've got to keep going, you know, regardless. Although, obviously, worst case scenario, if it came to the point where actually clearly it really wasn't viable for me to do it, then, yeah, I'll just sell the bike, you know. But the point is that, you know, I've got a goal. I want to be able to ride this bike that I've bought. And I now need to do all of the work to enable it to happen. It's not going to happen by magic. Yeah. Same with my Great North Run that I've just done. So let me just explain to you a little bit about what happened. So my personal best for Great North Run is something like 2 hours and 8 minutes, which is, for me, a huge achievement, because I'm not a natural runner, and it took years of training to actually get to the point where I could do that kind of performance. I'm at my level of fitness at the moment is kind of puts me to about 220, 230, and there was some hills, not massive hills, but it was an undulating course, and there's a period from 10 to 12 miles which is uphill, and not as steep as the one that I did yesterday, but it's still uphill. And what I noticed was the comparison between last year when I did it, which I was post-injury, and actually I knew that I wasn't going to be able to run all the way around because I'd had an injury like a month before. I can't even remember what it was now, but I couldn't do all of the training. So I had to take a different strategy for the race, which was basically to walk up the hills. I wasn't allowed to run up the hills. I had to walk the hills, which obviously would slow me down quite considerably. And by the time I got to the end, I felt really knackered because I hadn't been able to do all of the training to improve my fitness and my stamina and my endurance enough to be able to do the performance that I wanted. Whereas this time, I still obviously was nowhere near my personal best performance, but my intention was to be able to run all the way around and enjoy it. And exactly that is what happened. I was able to run all the way. I didn't even stop once. I didn't even stop at the drink stations. I'm very good at, I've got this sort of technique of managing to do what I need to do at the drink stations without stopping moving. Sometimes I will stop moving if I'm not if I haven't got a big target in mind, but I really, really wanted to get under 2 hours 30. So, and I was kind of checking in with myself and sort of doing mental calculations as I was going through the race, thinking, you know, where am I against that goal? Keep pushing forward. Don't allow time to stop. Just keep going. All the time that my body was allowing me to do that, and I wasn't getting any warning signs of any issues, then I just kept going, and that's what I did. And I came in at 2:26.04, which I was very, very happy with. And not only that, I finished strong, and I didn't get any cramp, which is one of the big things that I struggle with as a runner. I got my race nutrition absolutely spot on. Was lucky with the weather in that the sun went in, and it started getting quite cloudy, and it was a cool breeze, which helped, because in the start it was massively boiling hot, and I was really worried about how I was going to get on. But anyway, then there was the big storm at the end, which I think I mentioned previously, which meant we were stranded in South Shields, couldn't get back into Newcastle for a little while, and waiting for the train in a massive queue in a thunderstorm was not great. But because I trained well, I got the time I deserved, and I was fit after the race, so I didn't feel too exhausted. Next day, however, was a different story. When I got home, because I had to travel through the night, I stopped at a Trafford Lodge for 4 hours to get some sleep because it was impossible to drive all the way home through the night. I would have normally been home by midnight, but it wasn't going to happen, so we had to stop. It was obviously safe and the right thing to do. Got home at 8:30, threw my day completely out, and yeah, it took me a couple of days to kind of really recover from all of that. And then I made the decision last week to not do any formal exercise at all, other than sort of just walking or stretching and stuff like that, which meant that when I went out yesterday, I felt really fit and well, ready to tackle this massive hill, do another long run. So my intention now, I haven't actually got a new goal. I need to find a new goal of a race that I want to do. It's just really unusual for me. I've usually got them stacked in the calendar for foreseeable future, but I haven't at the moment, so I need to think of one. But that then will be my next focus, and my intention for that is then to build on my success of what I achieved last weekend, so that I can get closer to those times, because I've got the endurance now, I've got the distances in my within my capabilities now, so I'm much stronger than I was this time last year. So my next intention now is to just get a bit faster, but I do have to bear in mind the limitations of my physical issues. Like I have an Achilles tendon that doesn't tend to like it too much when I push the speed too much. But again, it's about building stamina and endurance, and it's about a fine line between, you know, not overdoing it so you actually make the problem worse, or building the strength back up in a joint. And obviously that's what I get specialist advice about. It's not something I'm going to try and tackle on my own. But yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at. So my thinking about my tasks for this month. So, you know, my goal is really, you know, to improve my fitness, my speed by Christmas, so that I'm ready going into 2024 with a really strong baseline, so that any races that come up, I can say, yeah, I want to do that, and I can go and do it, and I'll know that I'm fit and ready for it, and I want to kind of preserve my fitness and safeguard my conditioning, if you like, so that I'm not vulnerable to a further injuries. Because this, what was happening before, was I was kind of going too much too soon and then getting injured and then having to take a step back. And of course it's difficult as we get older, because our bodies change, and they're not able to do what they used to be able to do. And this is, you know, my mind was kind of like, you know, rolling back to 10 years ago when I was doing all of this stuff, and I can't do that anymore. I'd get too tired, and, you know, I need to recover more these days, and I have to respect that. You know, I can't change that. That is a fact of my, you know, physical abilities now. You know, I'm 10 years older than when I was doing all my best times. So I've got to be realistic about what I can achieve, and I'm just going to see how it goes. But the key thing is to, you know, just keep being consistent, because it's the consistency that has really paid off. And also posting publicly about what I was doing, because when I was saying, right, I'm going, you know, Great North Run training run, you know, and I'm going to do it, not I've done it, but I'm going to do it, and then I've done it. That really helped to spur me on to keep going. And it's those kinds of things that do make a big difference. So posting in the group, do keep posting in the group. You know, if you need help, post in the group. If you want to share a win, post in the group, because doing so is going to really help to fire you up, as well as inspire everybody else, and keep that lovely sense of community spirit that we've got going, and that, you know, this wonderful, really safe space that we've got to support each other. So please use it. Right, I'm going to stop rambling now, because I think I've been going for, I don't know, nearly 20 minutes maybe. It's not telling me. I can talk when I get going, can't I? But I hope that's helpful. So remember, just keep trying. Just keep focusing on that very next step in front of you. Don't keep looking up at the hill. Look at the step in front of you, and just keep going. And if you go off track, you just need to look up, remind yourself where the track is, and move back on it. Yeah, and ask for help if you need it. You know, this is not easy. Losing weight, managing our weight, changing our behaviour is not easy, because it's going against everything that feels natural. Remember that, because if you think it's going to be easy, then you're going to have you're going to be beating yourself up because you're finding it hard. Whereas if you go into it knowing that it's hard, but you're ready for it, and you know where to go for help, and you know what's important to you, just keep going. Remember Groundhog Day. I know I keep going on about it. Groundhog Day is such an important film in terms of the messages that it gives about the importance of not giving up. Yeah. So I hope that helps. Let me know in the comments, and please use the group this week if you're struggling, or if you want to just, you know, have a bit of a mindset refresh. Just get in the group and tell us what's going on, and we will be there for you. And I will see you next week. Take care. Bye bye.